Earlier today, out on the interwebs, I happened to be on Facebook and I saw this awesome meme. I guess, Chris, is that what the kids are calling it these days? Is a meme.
Yes, it's a meme.
So I saw one and it combined two of my loves, Meatloaf, not the meal, but the singer. Well, actually, I don't really know if he's a love of mine, but who doesn't love Meatloaf? And Hot Toys. And so obviously, Chris, with his famous lyric, I would do anything for love. And you combine that with Hot Toys and it's instant humor. So we shared it out on our Facebook group, Six Scale Scavengers on Facebook. You can find us there, and had a couple new additions to the SSS family this week. So it was good to see, and good to see some more people coming on the journey with us. So Chris, we love Hot Toys. I'd say we love Hot Toys a lot more than Meatloaf. So let's get this episode kicked off here.
Yeah, man, let's get rolling.
All right, so agenda for episode 5 of the Six Heel Scavengers. We've got news to cover. We're going to talk about the Sideshow Spooktacular 2018 coming up towards the end of October on Sideshow. Some tips and tricks for that. A suggestion from our Facebook group on some topics, and this one is some figures that we want to have made that have not been teased yet. Well, I cheated on one of them. Little disclaimer. We're going to give an update on our collections, stuff coming and going. And obviously, we always try to have a feature figure review. I say it once an episode. Chris, you and I, we're not experts. We're a little biased with our reviews because these figures cost large sums of money, and we tend to get the ones that we like. We're not out there just buying all the figures just to review them and selling them afterwards if we don't do that. I mean, we're really passionate about this. So we're usually a little bit more slanted toward the positive, but we will nitpick on little things if there's anything there. So we're going to be covering Deadpool from Deadpool 2 MMS 490. And as we're recording here on September 27th, we've got another episode that we're releasing here, pretty close to our last one, but we're trying to get back on a once every 2 week release schedule. Are we extremely consistent with that? I'm going to do my best. You and I, this is our side hustle. We're not making any money on this.
Right.
We've both got careers and family. So we just try to get this out when we can because we love talking Hot Toys. You and I talk Hot Toys every single day, practically, it seems. So,
yep, basically.
On the day we're recording here, Chris, one of those infamous eBay deals that we've talked about, we shared it on our group a couple days ago, and it dropped today, 15% off. We were able to share that. A couple people in the group were able to use that on some pretty good deals. I actually used the opportunity to sell something out of my collection, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But as our friend Mark likes to say, it's Christmas comes early here.
Yeah, man, those eBay deals, we hadn't gotten one in a while. You had posted that. It got me looking around to see what's on eBay. And Mark had noticed that a lot of his sellers, or a lot of items that he was watching, the prices magically went up. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Yeah, those eBay deals. If you got something on your watch list and it's a buy it now, or the auction just so happens to be ending that day, I'd always welcome an extra 15% off.
I'm really bummed because we'll talk about it in our collection update, but I recently have a new addition to the collection family, and it was a bidding situation. I probably wouldn't have qualified for this, but it's like, oh man, if I just held out for a couple more days. But the figure I got a really good deal on it, and I can't really complain about that at all. So Chris, let's get over and talk about news. And we went a while without getting any figures. You and I were talking as we're getting ready for this show. Are we going to have any news to talk about? We threw that out into the universe, and Chris, the universe listened, and we've got a new figure announcement. This one was previously teased, I believe, at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, it was.
Princess Leia, Bespin gown, MMS 508. just released today, up for pre-order on Sideshow for $204 with a expected release date of between July and September 2019. Chris, what are you thinking about this one?
Well, I mean, it kind of came out of. I love the figure. It just looks amazing. The likeness to Carrie Fisher is, I mean, it is pretty much spot on, at least from the prototype figure that they have in the photography. I'm digging the gown. I've always liked that vintage Kenner figure of Leia with the Bespin outfit. She's got that pattern on the kind of overcoat piece of clothing there, and they really captured that detail. So, and the other thing that intrigued me is a couple other figures that might have gotten teased there. So what did we see?
We've got and this had the Hot Toys collection community buzzing, is we've got a sneak peek of a Bespin Han Solo in his Bespin jacket slash, from the jacket he wears when they're leaving Hoth, and potentially a new Chewbacca. That one's a little less positive about that one. They could have been just reusing the New Hope one in the picture, but I think the fact that they displayed it usually means that they have plans to release that. So it would be nice to get an updated Chewbacca. Chewbacca from A New Hope was the second figure that Hot Toys released in the Star Wars line. I believe it was MMS 262, maybe? I could be wrong. I could be looking that up at one of our checklists at brickcityblockade.com. But we're going to roll on with the show here. So I think that's pretty exciting. And as I'll talk about a little bit later, sometimes I almost got a double whammy of poor timing on one of my additions to my collection. So I think more people are probably more intrigued by the Bespin Han. And I know that a lot of customizers out there have been trying to create that look on their own. We've talked about it before. I'm not much of a customizer. I like to keep things as Hot Toys intends to release to us. So I don't know. We'll see. That was the first that we've seen anything of that, and it'll be interesting to see what any kind of a timeline of that, because we haven't even seen that figure on any of that we know about. We haven't seen it on any of the trade show floors or anything.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see if they continue with the Empire Strikes Back theme with other characters, that we haven't seen yet from Hot Toys, key characters in the Star Wars line. But, as far as this figure here, this Leia, it's great to have that particular version of the character represented now. And, people, talking about the lack of accessories and that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's priced, the pricing nowadays is according to the lack of accessories. I don't really know what else they could have in there. Looks like a high quality figure. We'll see what else they release from that line.
Yeah, the head sculpt is just phenomenal. I agree with you on all accounts on the outfit. And like we said, exciting to potentially get some more figures from Empire Strikes Back. And we're about a year and a half or so from the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back. Doesn't that make you feel a little old there, Chris?
Yikes. Yeah. The year I was born. So it's,
I was an 82er. So if I was less than one, I could have gone and seen Return of the Jedi in theaters, but we're not here to talk about our age. We're here to talk about, we teased it a little bit. We had some little insight in some of the collecting groups, but Hela from Thor Ragnarok. And again, this information firsthand because you got the email earlier today, Chris.
Yeah, surprisingly, out of nowhere, again, today, got the email from Sideshow saying that my last payment was going to drop October 9th. So I'm thinking, within 2 days after that, she'll ship. And yeah, I just cannot wait for that figure. I am dying for it. I love Ragnarok. Cate Blanchett, just amazing performance as Hela. So I'm really glad to have that figure coming sooner than later.
Some other stuff coming up. We got some information that a lot of people, Chris, have been looking for information about the Neon Tech Iron Man that was available, I believe at San Diego Comic-Con. Was it available at San Diego Comic-Con?
Yes.
Okay, so it was, and it has not been made available on the Sideshow website. It now looks like you were able to find some information out on the Twitter machine that it will be available during New York Comic Con 2018, which is, I believe, next weekend from the time we're recording here. So they're not quite making it available on the site yet. So if you happen to be attending that con, it's one of the biggest. It's not quite as big as San Diego. They'll have that figure available.
Definitely check Sideshow's website for details, but from what I understand, it's first come, first serve, and it's possible if they have any left over from the show, they may make them available on Sideshow's website, but that figure is commanding crazy dollars on eBay right now. So I'm sure it's going to go quick, and if you got a friend going to New York Comic Con, you might want to slip them a couple extra bucks to pick one up for you if that's a figure you want.
We gotta love our hot toy collector buddies out there. They help us. They help us spend money. They are also sometimes our good conscience from saying, you might not want to do that.
Yes.
So, Chris, let's move on to our next topic. And I wanted to get this out on an episode here and give people not quite a full month to get ready for it, but at least 3 or 4 weeks. We're looking at October 22nd through the 26th. Sideshow runs an annual, it's like a reward celebration. They call it their Spooktacular. And it really centers around getting people that aren't currently subscribers to their newsletter, get people excited about their products, Hot Toys products. And what they do is in the newsletter every day during that time period, there's a reward code hidden usually at the bottom of the newsletter, and you can enter that onto the Sideshow website. You do have to have a login. So that's the first thing we're going to recommend to everybody is they're giving away all this free money and reward codes. Sign up for the newsletter, get yourself an account on Sideshow if you haven't already. If you prefer to get your figures on eBay, Big Bad Toy Store, at least sign up for a login on Sideshow. You'll thank us later. So, Chris, those codes you get daily and you can enter in, and sometimes they go quick. Sometimes they have a quick expiration. Sometimes they're only out there for 10, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, a little bit more. The newsletter ones tend to be out there. But what I would recommend is, about this now. You've got a couple days in October. Just be ready on your phone and see when these things drop. One of the things that some of the larger groups like Tashi Station and the others are kind of escaping me here, but a lot of what people will do is create Facebook Messenger groups, and they'll drop the codes in there, and it's almost your instantaneous notification that I got to jump on the Sideshow website. I got to punch in this reward code. You got to, like I said, you got to act quick. Chris, I know this is right when you were getting that Hot Toys bug last year. You weren't quite in. I think I got you to sign up for an account, and you were hopefully got a little bit of free money, but I am not kidding you and our listeners. I tallied up almost about $40 in rewards last year just from staying on top of things and being active, and it literally, pun intended, it paid off to be that involved.
Staying on top of things, getting those codes, getting them punched in. It's, if you plan ahead and there's figures, maybe available currently, you might want to wait to save up those points. Cause say you're able to get that $40. That's, that's going to cover shipping. It's going to cover, a small amount off the figure, but it's, again, like you said, free money. And last year, yeah, that's when you're saying, hey, you got to check this out. I signed up, picking up points and stuff here and there, rewards points. And, it was fun just trying to get the feel of it and that sort of thing. And I'll definitely be partaking in the fun.
Yeah, and that's what it is, Chris. It is fun. And Sideshow, if you don't do Facebook and you don't do Messenger, what I would also recommend is following Sideshow on social media. They do Facebook Live events on Twitter. They have various different ways of dropping these different codes. And I didn't get every single one of them that dropped. And they also, there was a few times I felt like they were threw a bone to like the real, the overnight crowd. And Sideshow, I don't know if we talked about this before, Chris, but obviously Sideshow is based in California, so they're on Pacific time. Very rarely did they do anything like after hours. It's not like you have to it's not like you have to stay awake for 72 hours straight plus just to get all this, the free money. I think we would strongly recommend to everybody that you continue to live your lives. But if you have the opportunity throughout the day, maybe you're in a meeting at work and you pull out your phone, you've got a notification, jump on, get yourself some free money.
Yeah, don't want to miss out. Don't want to miss out on deals, because deals are what we're always looking for.
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to, we all work very hard for our dollars. And like we've talked about in our last episode with budgeting, certainly having the ability to knock down the price is something that anybody should be looking to do. So if you got any more questions about Sideshow, check out their website. In our Facebook group, I posted a link to their page. They have a countdown going already for the launch. They won't be shy about it. And just do whatever you can to get involved. And, we'll try to share as many of those codes as we see on our Facebook group, but count on your other collecting friends, and you can't possibly see them all. But if you catch any of them, you're only going to benefit. So, Chris, we're going to move on to our next topic. And this one is courtesy of the aforementioned Facebook group. And we threw it out to our loyal listeners and said, we want to just see, what do you guys want to hear about? And Justin in our Facebook group had a great suggestion, and we're going to go with that one this week very quickly. It's a fun little exercise to do. And Justin wanted to know, what are the figures that Hot Toys has not done yet that we really want? So I'll go first, Chris, because I cheated, and it has not been officially teased at a show, but it was teased on Instagram. But my number one figure that I want most is Crate Luke from the end of The Last Jedi. Yeah, we don't know when it's going to come, but right. I have a feeling that it's going to. The fact that they had a almost fully formed prototype on the artist's desk, but we have not gotten any other inkling of it. So I'm cheating, and that's going to be my number one figure. How about you? What's yours, Chris?
Okay, so I mean, you're kind of going with a Star Wars theme. I'll go with a Marvel theme. I think really one of the top figures, I mean, this is kind of in no particular order, but for me, I'm a huge Guardians of the Galaxy fan, and this character played a big role in Infinity War 2, and the character is Nebula. And I think, I think just the aesthetic of the character would make for a very interesting 6 scale figure, and she could have all sorts of gadgets and like extendable, limbs and all that stuff. I mean, I think Hot Toys could do something special with that figure, and I know a lot of collectors put that on their lists of their wish list for Marvel Hot Toy.
Well, with Avengers 4 coming out, and if it plays anything close to the original Infinity War comic book and the Infinity Gauntlet, then there's a chance that character may factor in very heavily into that storyline. So I like that call. This one's this isn't cheating. So my next one is legitimate. Now, Sideshow has done their own version of this figure, but Hot Toys has not. And I'm going to stay with my Star Wars and my Luke Skywalker theme. I'd love to see X-Wing pilot Luke, and if they're not going to give us that, then I'll take Snowspeeder Luke. I just think that would be a very visually appealing figure. Obviously, Chris, you mentioned a little bit ago with Leia and Bespin Leia, and it's a highly desirable vintage figure. Well, so is X-Wing Luke. So I'd love to have that figure in Hot Toys form.
Yeah, they could go all out with that. It would be sweet if they had a die-cast helmet or something like that. Or I just think the detail in the Rebel pilot suit, they could tighten it up compared to the Sideshow one. I mean, the Sideshow one, it displays okay, but We all know Hot Toys kind of takes it to that next level.
Yeah, and we may get the first example. We may have get that in Hot Toys is if they ever get around to releasing the Poe Dameron figure. Obviously, that's the Resistance flight suit, not necessarily the Rebellion. So we'll see. But yeah, X-Wing Luke. How about your next one, Chris?
So I'm going for a more recent character coming from the MCU, and I'm going to M'Baku from Black Panther and Infinity War. Just the sheer mass of that character and his outfit with the fur and everything. I think that would make for another very interesting figure, and I think we could have a bunch of cool accessories if somehow Hot Toys could make the thing do the chant that he does. It would be pretty funny, but I know that's asking too much. But again, I just think he's a significant character now in the MCU, and I would expect to see him in Avengers 4. Maybe we'll get him next year sometime.
Sounds good. All right, so because I cheated on my first one, I had a tie for my number 3 one. So again, I'm just cheating all over in this fun little exercise that we're doing. So my tie is because I feel like they are joined at the hip in episode 1, but I'd love to get Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi from episode 1 just to complete the Duel of the Fates. And with Maul coming out next year, I want to say in the Maul, I could have sworn, and my memory's fading me because obviously I'm old, but I could have sworn they also kind of teased maybe a look at Qui-Gon in that, but I could be completely wrong. But I think, although it doesn't take very long, one of my favorite lightsaber duels in the entire saga is Obi-Wan and Maul at the end of that movie. I think it's just, a lot of it's overdone and jumping in the air and stuff, but it's still so cool. I just remember that so vividly, watching that in high school.
No, 2 very good choices. I mean, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace, and they're figures that we need to complete that grouping of figures for the Phantom Menace, and we know with how they're going with the head sculpts, they could really get Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan nailed.
So Chris, what about your last one?
So my last one, you kind of threw out some ideas to me just because I was having a little blank. So I'm kind of go a different direction. I know this could potentially fit into your focus of Captain America, but one of my favorite characters in the MCU is Peggy Carter, and she made appearances in multiple movies. She had her own series, TV series, and that sort of thing. But again, going with the aesthetic, she could have multiple outfits. Deserves a figure, and we just need a more variety with the female characters for the MCU, in my opinion.
Also very underrated, and Christopher Robin, I will say, huge Haley Atwell fan, and I completely agree, Chris. I would find a way to get that figure in my collection, preferably Captain America: First Avenger. So, anyways, Justin, a fun little thing, just getting some ideas. And one of the other topics, and we'll get into it. I know we've talked about it in one of the earlier episodes, but kind of just like our collecting focus and what we're all about and how we approach things. And we said it at the top, we're not experts. We're learning with everybody else. I love that part of this podcast and getting to interact with our audience and just knowing that you don't know it all, and the fact that others can benefit kind of in a pay it forward situation, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I love just sharing what I learned with others, and if they find that beneficial, I think that's just pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. Have fun, spread out our minimal knowledge of the subject. And,
minimal / mediocre / hacking it up.
Pretty much.
Trying to pretend like we can have our own podcast about this stuff.
Yeah. No, it's fun though. It's fun.
You got to stay modest, my friend. So speaking of modest, we have a little bit of some chat to talk about with our collection update. It was a little bit light the last time around. We still we have some stuff, obviously. The fact that we're got a feature review of a brand new figure with Deadpool 2. Obviously, we're not going to get into that right now because just in a few minutes, we're going to talk about that review, and you've got that in hand. The figure looks phenomenal. I talked about it at the opening, and I wouldn't call it buyer's remorse, Chris, but the fact that I don't know, hopefully you had a chance to watch Solo with your wife over the weekend.
Yep.
Just I've been in a Solo. There's something about, not that I ever disliked Solo or Han Solo, excuse me, but the movie just put him in a whole nother light that I can really appreciate his journey through the original trilogy, and then in a short-lived appearance in the sequel trilogy. But he's just way more interesting and fascinating. So I've mentioned it before. I've got the standard version of Han Solo from the Solo film on pre-order for next year. I said, well, why not start where it all began? So it actually, Chris, this is the first figure that Hot Toys produced in the movie Masterpiece series was actually Han Solo, MMS 261. Chewbacca, I believe, was 262, and then there was a combo pack of 263. And I know one of our the new people in our group, the Collecting Dad on Twitter, had asked a question about like multi-packs and are the figures any different? They're actually not. They're actually all the same. It's just they're packed in with different ones, and it's more of a value if you can buy them together sometimes than separate. If they're two figures you really want, you can actually save quite a bit. I know right now with the BB-9E and the BB-8 set, you can save quite a bit of money on getting them combined than it is to buy them separate. And that was one of those ones as well too. So I haven't actually had a chance, Chris, to open that one yet. Also, lesson learned on this one, I guess it's kind of the trifecta. If there's no mention in the listing about it being from a smoke-free home, pet-free, you might want to assume that it could be this. The box came in and it was not what I was expecting. Thankfully, that these figures are so well protected under the glass, and it was a new one. It doesn't appear that the figure is going to have any sort of damage at all, but that was just another strike for something that didn't need it.
It's tough. I mean, you never know sometimes. Hopefully that figure, you said, should be pretty good, once it's on display. And always feel free to, if that stuff is not noted in the description, definitely message sellers just for peace of mind. If they say, nope, it's good, and then it shows up and it reeks, then you've got something to stand on. So
yeah, I mean, this one's totally on me. It wasn't mentioned in the listing at all, and whatever happens when you assume something. So I think I'll be all right in the clear. We mentioned it, Chris, at the top where we had the eBay deal today. I actually used the opportunity to not necessarily buy anything, but I sold something today. I sold my Black Widow from Iron Man 2, MMS 124, a figure released way back in the Wayback Machine in 2010. So the figure's over almost 8 years older, if not older at this point. And we talk all the time about how much better figures have gotten now versus when they first released. And that is still a pretty decent figure, but I just felt like it was a good opportunity. I noted it in the description, the suit itself, not necessarily deteriorating, but it's showing some age. And I think it's just one thing we all have to remember about these things is these things aren't going to last forever. We can try to make them last as long as possible and treat them with care and protect them as much as we can and enjoy them. But at some point, so I listed it out there for a very reasonable price. And I think 20 minutes into the deal this morning, it was already sold. I messaged you and I'm like, I kind of need you to be my conscience. And I'm like, I'm thinking about doing this. And you're like, I'm not going to stop you. So you were a good friend this morning. And I think it also helped me with a little bit, not necessarily OCD, but with collecting focuses. My three main focuses at this point are Luke Skywalker, Captain America, and Black Widow. And for Luke Skywalker, I don't have the Bespin Deluxe number 7 figure for Captain America. I don't have the Battling Shield version from Civil War. And now for Black Widow, I'm not going to have all of them. So I think at some point it will give me the opportunity to not always feel like I got to jump out and grab them just because I'm already committed at that point. I now have an out.
That's a good way of looking at it, man. That's the thing with focus collecting. Sometimes you feel like you're locked in to needing every variation, every version, release, whatever it may be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because I have my vintage focus is pretty much that way. If there's a variation, I need it. But for me, it's a little bit different with the Hot Toys, and it's nice to have that. And just I tried to return the favor for the conscience, because you helped me with a toy show this past Saturday, and it was basically like, you're just like, let it go, man. Let it go. It's stuff that's been sitting in totes for years, and it felt really good to just get rid of stuff, and now have some free cash to reinvest into the part of the collections that I get more out of.
Absolutely. That was a good show over at Hampton Toy and Comic Show at Winnicott High School in Hampton, New Hampshire. So that was a good time. Anyways, I'll get all the good karma flowing here. Chris, let's get into our feature figure review. We talked about it at the top. It's Deadpool from Deadpool 2, the movie. Marvel focused, not necessarily in the MCU. This is MMS $490 and retails for $251. So what's the skinny on this figure, Chris?
Well, for me, I'm a huge Deadpool fan, have been ever since I was a kid. I remember buying Deadpool's first appearance in New Mutants number 98. Been a fan for a long time, and had a great time with the first movie. And when I got into the Hot Toys, naturally I searched for Deadpool. I noticed they had one for the first movie, but I knew that Deadpool 2 was coming out. I thought for sure that Hot Toys was going to release a second one. So I held off and pre-ordered this first day pre-order back in May. So not that long ago. And it got released this month. So pretty new. Just showed up on my doorstep a couple days ago. I haven't had too much time with this figure. Like I said, a couple days ago, I just cracked the box open a couple hours ago and just checking the figure out, just doing my first little inspection of all the accessories and that sort of thing. But for me, I was kind of scared because the box, this is from Sideshow, and they come straight in the brown shipper box, and one corner was pretty busted up. Luckily, I opened up the display box, was not too damaged, just a little crease in the corner. But thankfully, because of the quality packaging that Hot Toys does, the figure and all the accessories were nice and safe and sound. But, first impressions, I can't even believe the detail on this figure, honestly. Just from the basic look of it, it looks like Ryan Reynolds in his Deadpool outfit is sitting on my desk right now. It's just pretty crazy. But yeah.
So how about accessories? I know this one came pretty loaded.
Yeah, it did come really loaded. Lots of different things you can do with this figure. Just even looking at the pictures on Sideshow's website, there's a lot you can do. We've got, 5 sets of eyes. We've got his mutant kind of collar from when he's in the ice box. Got his X-Men trainee jersey, which is like a mesh fabric. It's pretty neat. Got his trusty little unicorn. And we've got a whole bunch of hands. I mean, just like holding hands, fists, thumbs up, no explicit hands in there. But, and then, so we've got his pistols. We've got a dagger. We've got a couple little like throwing star kind of things. I'm not a weapons expert by any means. And then, got his katanas. And what's neat about the the little backpack, it's magnetic. So his back is magnetic, and you can just stick the thing right on there. It doesn't cause any restrictions or anything like that. And then to top that off, the katanas are metal. So it really gives it that extra detail. So yeah, I mean, accessories, no complaints. I couldn't even think of anything else, that you could have in there. Other than the one thing I would say that I would really like is a separate head sculpt with unmasked, but I know that there's licensing issues as far as that goes with the actors' likenesses. So I think that might be why we haven't seen it. There's an aftermarket company that makes them, and I'm skeptical on ordering that just because it kind of looks shoddy. But yeah, that would be the only accessory that I would want.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it sounds great. I did have the opportunity. I know you were giving me some grief because I hadn't seen Deadpool 2 yet. I didn't see it in the theaters. I happened to see it a couple weeks ago when I was traveling for work. And I think because I had low expectations going into the film, it exceeded my expectations. Whereas I feel like I was one of the few people on the planet that didn't really dig the first one. But I think because I had high expectations, he's never really been a favorite character of mine. But I will say, though, it's funny. They pick on themselves. They pick on every other, Marvel, anything, other comic book movies out there. So I think that part, being self-aware, I think makes that also pretty funny.
Yeah. I enjoyed the movie. I saw it in the theater and stuff when it came out. I'd say it's pretty close to the first one for me. There's parts of the first one that I'm not too crazy about, and then there's parts of the second one I'm not too crazy about, but overall enjoyable and interested to see what happens to Deadpool going forward with the whole Disney Fox deal. Maybe we'll see Deadpool in the MCU someday. Hopefully it's Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So any other final thoughts about the figure, Chris?
Well, yeah, man. So like I said, I haven't had too much time with it. The figure comes with a dynamic stand, and it screws into the base, and it's got it's kind of like a coil, and you can kind of move it around. It's got the part that holds the figure. It's got padding on the inside, so it's not going to affect the material. And surprisingly, this figure has the movement and the articulation is really good. Through the suit and that sort of thing. I know some figures in the past have been really restricted with the type of suit they have, but I think Hot Toys is ever perfecting the materials and the techniques that they're using. And this figure, I'll be messing around with this one for a long time, but I think, you can get him in a lot of poses and one of the other sets of accessories that I probably won't be using. The high heels that he wore in the Out of the Ashes video with Celine Dion. Not my cup of tea as far as an accessory, but great song. It just shows that Deadpool's not meant to be taken seriously. It's all in fun. I love the figure. Obviously biased. Like I said, day one pre-order. I just kind of wish he had some buddies to hang out with, but I'll see where I put him. Hang him out. He'll hang out with Spider-Man and maybe Daredevil or something like that. But or he'll be messing with all the other scenes. He'll pop up in the different scenes that I'm gonna set up someday. Other than that, I got no complaints. We kind of really have a rating system.
We have a highly inconsistent rating system.
Yes.
We have one. It's just inconsistent.
Yeah, it could be anything, anytime. I mean, I'm gonna give it.
How about go based on Deadpool heads?
Deadpool heads. I'm gonna give it 3 3/4 Deadpool heads, just because I really wish we had that extra head sculpt. And you're gonna hear that from me going forward, probably with needing that extra head sculpt. We get it with Tony Stark. We get it with other characters. I think Hot Toys, hopefully going forward, will start including that stuff.
Great stuff. Yeah. Not a figure that I am planning on getting myself, but as soon as you ever get your collection room all set up, I definitely are going to want to check out that one. So, we'll be posting pictures of this out on social media, on Six Hill Scavengers, on Instagram, just going forward. So, Chris, I think that's a good segue into our plug time, how we like to end each of our episodes of our podcast. Let's get the Twitter, Instagram stuff out of the way.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Vintage Viewport.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jedi Scavenger SW. You can, as I mentioned, you can follow the Six Scale Scavengers on Instagram at Six Scale Scavengers. Pretty good name. Easy to find. And you're already listening to this podcast, but if you want a different place to listen to it, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and sixscalescavengers.libsyn.com if you want to grab the RSS feed and throw that link into your podcatcher of choice, and you'll instantly know when a new episode is dropping. And like we said, this is going to drop pretty close to our last one. It may be another 2 weeks or so. I don't know. We haven't officially set a release schedule yet, Chris, but I'd like to get one out at least twice a month, and hopefully we can start doing that going forward. And make sure you head over to brickcityblockade.com. We're part of their podcast network, and we also have our Hot Toys, Star Wars, and Marvel MCU checklist there. They're a great resource, and just updated them this evening to include finally get the Spider-Punk one out there, and obviously Bespin Leia. So, Chris, I think that's going to wrap it up this week.
Yeah, it was a good chat. Getting the news out, getting our figure review out. We'll see what kind of news drops in between shows. Hopefully, there's a lot of it, but you just never know.
You never do know. So for Christopher James Letty, this is Brian Fontaine. We want to thank you for listening to Six Scale Scavengers, Episode 5. And as we always say, may the Force be with you.
Always.